Me too.
All right. Almost everyone here. All right. All right, it's 6 o'clock. We'll call the meeting to order. Can I get roll call, please, Melanie?
Yes.
Thank you.
All right. Commissioner Berezinski. Here. Commissioner Dolzall.
Here.
Commissioner Owens.
Here.
Commissioner Dobbs.
Here.
Commissioner Litke. Here. Commissioner Parson. And Chair Moriarty.
Here.
All right, we have a quorum. Thank
All
you.
right, thank you. All right, we'll be moving on to community comments. We have one here. Miss Carolyn Kimball, sorry. Thank you for coming.
It should be on. Can you is it tap? If you tap it?
It's a little light.
Did I turn it off?
There we go.
There you go.
Okay.
I can hear you.
Hi, my name is Carolyn Kimball. I live at 35625 Southeast Tumalo Mountain in Estacada. Do you need more information than that? Just okay.
No.
So I'm here today to talk about the number 2 crime statistics, recent stolen vehicles, and also about something that's not on here, but it still has to do with crime, and that's unreported crimes that are taking place in town. And I'd like to talk to that first. I think that I have a unique opportunity to kind of have the pulse of what's going on in town because I run the Estacada Moose Lodge page, and I do a lot of social media posting for the Moose Lodge in lots of different social media, mostly Facebook pages. And I see a lot of commentary from the people in town. I also created a walking group. So I'm friends with people in Estacada that I haven't physically met, but we have, contact online, and we have commentary online. And I see a lot of comments about people not reporting crime in town because frankly, they don't believe that the police are here in a timely manner. And of course, if a property crime happens, maybe it's not priority for the police, but if it's something like a mugging, I heard and read that there were two muggings that happened relatively recently, and they weren't reported because they didn't think that the police would show up in a timely manner or show up at all. And so, when you talk about crime statistics, you're not going to get current statistical analysis if people aren't calling the police. So unreported crimes that are happening in our town, in incorporated Estacada or in other parts of town, aren't getting addressed. So I don't think that the crime statistic numbers are necessarily as accurate as they might be. And if the police or the council or people who need to make informed decisions use crime statistics and they're not accurate, they're not making good, well-informed decisions. And then basically the crime statistics for the recent stolen vehicles, same situation. If people aren't calling in and reporting that their vehicles are stolen, or, they post it on Facebook and they don't place it. Everybody knows about it. Everybody's out looking for it, but the crime statistics and the information doesn't get to the people who need to see it.
Right.
So that's all I had to say.
Have a question.
Yes.
On the stolen vehicles, do you know if they reported the crimes and got a police report attached to those crimes?
I don't know specifically,
Okay.
but I would say in some of the social media posts that I do see, it's a lot of people yapping. Okay.
Right.
So, and maybe they don't want to report it stolen for whatever reason. Maybe it's a jalopy and it doesn't matter, but who knows? If it's just that they're out there reporting it to all their friends on Facebook and making a big deal about it online.
Right.
Is it a really stolen vehicle? Does it matter if it was reported to them? So same kind of thing. Crime statistics aren't necessary, may not necessarily be reported.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Does anyone else have anything?
I just have something
Go
to
ahead.
add. This is just to kind of reiterate, it's not necessarily a question for Carolyn. But I know I have some information about this because I actually met with some of these people today. She's talking about the muggings. I actually met with people about this today. A lady that runs, one of the, I'm trying not to give away names because they asked me not to. Runs one of the businesses in town, called me, had me go there this morning and talk about it. And from what I found out, I can give a few details. I was going to wait for Chief Mendoza, so I'm not sure. Should I wait to give details about that or should we talk about it now? What do you think?
I mean, he can obviously watch this. And
Right.
I don't know if Carolyn has to be anywhere.
Wait,
Want to wait?
You want to wait?
Yeah, we can wait.
Okay.
Sure.
Anyways, I have more details about this for later.
Okay. Good.
So that can be discussed with Lieutenant Mendoza when
Okay.
that's a good idea.
I'm sorry, your name was Carol?
Carolyn.
Carolyn, I'm sorry. I was a police officer for 31 years. And one of the things that we did in Oklahoma City that's where I was, we had community oriented policing. And what I think may be happening here based on what you've provided and what she was about to talk about is maybe there's just a little bit of a disconnect between law enforcement and the community. Based on what you're saying, they don't feel like they're getting the services that they are asking for. They're not here in a timely manner. We had the same situation in Oklahoma City. So with community oriented policing, that's something we would have to talk to Chief Mendoza about. We would set up teams of officers and we would go neighborhood by neighborhood, house by house, knocking on doors. We would have pamphlets in uniform, letting them know, hey, we're here for you guys. A lot of them were the Hispanic communities that really felt like they were underserved or we wouldn't understand, their plight like we would the other types of communities. And it was very successful. We let them know, hey, we're here for you. These are the resources. Here's our phone numbers. Here's our emergency numbers, non-emergency. We want you to call. We want you to report crimes that are happening. And it worked so well. I mean, our call volume went way up and then it became kind of a little bit of a burden on us because then we were just running. But that's a good thing for us to maybe talk to Lieutenant Mendoza about. I'm sure the sheriff's office has got something like that. Most large agencies do. And it's just a great way. It's really something that it's not so much of a city issue. It's more of a law enforcement connecting with the citizens. And I think if he had maybe 2 or 3 officers that we could start that process. Estacada is not near as large as where I was. So we should be able to knock every door in a couple of months or 3 or 4 months, whatever it may take. But we'd spend a couple of hours every night. We'd hit, we'd have an assignment 4 or 5 streets and we'd hit every one of them. If they weren't there, we'd leave a card. So maybe that's something we might be able to do to bridge that gap that you're referring to. It was successful where I was, and I'm sure it would be something we could do here.
And I think having read what I've read online, I think having that kind of outreach
Right.
probably be a real benefit.
Yeah, it is. And citizens, when they see an officer at their door, not because they called them, but because, hey, we're here, we're serving you. What can we do for you? What are your problems? It really made a great bond with the officers and the citizens as they were out there to protect and serve. So
Mhm.
that might be something we broach with Chief Mendoza and see if he can figure out a way to make that happen or something similar to that.
Sounds like a good idea.
Definitely. Great idea.
Mhm.
Thank you for bringing that to our attention.
Absolutely.
Carolyn, I appreciate that. Is
Thank you.
that all we have? Good evening, ma'am. How you doing? There's a form over there to your left. Oh.
That's all right.
Yeah.
We can.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we can get you a form if we're out there. I'll just jot down your name.
Sure.
And we'll fill one out for you. But yeah, if you came to speak, now is the time.
Absolutely.
And I see there is one attendee online.
Okay.
So if anybody online was wanting to make a public comment, go ahead and use your raised hand and then I'll bring you into the meeting. I'll keep an eye on that.
Okay.
Yeah, do you want to come on up to the microphone?
Okay.
We cannot hear you, like the people, if there are people who want to watch this later. Yeah, we won't look at you though. Everybody can look away.
We just can't hear you. That's all.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Maybe I don't want to. I heard you don't want to. Okay, I just was wondering why they took the stop signs off of Shafford and made it a freeway. We've had 2 cars hit up there. There's not room for 2 cars to get through there, and they do it anyway. And we've had 2 cars hit. One was a week ago Sunday. We don't call anybody because nothing's gonna happen. One of them we didn't know happened, but we know why it happened. It just doesn't make sense. All right,
Is that
Was
But
that
I-
one of your vehicles, ma'am, that was hit?
yes,
at
My
Shafford-
daughter's.
Shafford and Carroll? Is that where we're talking about
Yeah.
or where?
Shafford,
Shafford and,
right above Pierce.
right, like where
The whole
at?
Oh,
Shafford.
at Fifth and,
You said that we took out stop signs?
yeah, that
We had
was,
2 stop signs up there and they're taking them out.
right,
when
that's
they
on
did the new
Shafford.
road.
I think it's where Carol hits.
So it is Carroll and Shafford, the
That
intersection?
is one of them, and the other
Okay.
is Second and
Second,
Shafford.
yeah.
Second, okay.
Okay.
And at Second,
So both of them as you're concerned?
we can hardly get onto Shafford because when you come up to Second, there's cars parked there. You have to pull clear out into the street to see. I had to I almost got hit today because I pulled out into cars going 60 miles an hour.
That was from your driveway or
No, up
Just
on Second,
up on
trying to
Second?
get onto Shafford. Yeah,
Okay,
getting out of your driveway is almost impossible.
and that was your car that was parked on Shafford when it was struck?
My daughter's, yes,
Your daughter's car in front of your property?
yes.
And did you call the police on that or?
No,
I was just curious, that's all.
it was a delivery truck where I felt sorry for the pretty young kid driving. But he's actually did it, but they took all kinds of the reports
Okay,
between themselves.
and when did this happen?
It was the 18th
18th,
of January.
okay. I'm sorry that happened to your daughter's car. And do you know what time about?
Yeah, they all came at 1, it was around 1 o'clock.
1 PM?
Mhm.
Well, we can definitely look into possibly doing I know it was, my son used to live on Shafford, but up towards the high school. And
Yeah, that's what we lived just,
they've such moved up closer to us to Reagan Hill. And he's so glad that he no longer lives on Shafford.
it
And-
wasn't so bad until they did the streets and it's a freeway. And
Right.
people tell me they do that street, they don't have to go 20 miles an hour by the school, which is the next street down.
Right, and coming down Carroll, having to look left to go towards Sixth is difficult.
Yes,
It doesn't matter what type of vehicle I'm in, but the line's there, but I have to creep a little bit more,
Yeah.
a little bit more because of the,
and when's the point when you get out too far and you're gonna get hit?
Mhm.
Yeah, it's really difficult. Nobody seems to really care.
They do have speed bumps there, but I don't know how that slows them up
That's
at all.
not
That's-
what's slowing them
They're
down.
terrible.
I've seen people actually just keep going like Dukes of Hazzard. No, it's a problem. But what was your name again, ma'am? Or, that's okay. I know this is definitely hard.
Barbara Gracie.
Thank you, Barbara. That's an
Yeah.
easy name to remember. That's my mom's name. So thank
Which
you.
one?
The what?
Barbara or Gracie?
Barbara.
Okay, but it really, I mean, I've come down and talked to the women and they just say, we can't do anything, we can't do anything.
Okay,
But it would be nice to know that you're at least know we have a freeway up there.
right.
And we have a lot of kids that walk home from school. I don't see them in the morning, but I'm sure they walk to school and home. And they, kids don't stay on the sidewalk.
No, I
So,
definitely see a lot of elementary and middle school kids
Yeah,
walk to and from school. I mean, you pick out the high school kids easily, but see a lot
Yeah.
of the younger kids.
yeah,
But we'll definitely, we can definitely look into that, and if we have a way to contact you, we can definitely try to get you an answer in the
Okay.
future. But
Um,
again, we're sorry that happened.
well, a bunch of people got notices on their vehicles because they're parked more than 72 hours. that's in front of our homes, that we can't park our cars for more than 72 hours? Why is that more important than the freeway?
Mhm.
I can definitely ask that also. I don't know the answer to that. You're not in the homeowner association, are you?
No,
I
not
didn't think
unless
there was
they've
any.
changed it in the last 45 years.
So 72 hours notice was put out.
Yeah. I mean,
Was
some
that
of us have
recent?
more than one car.
Was
There's
that
no place
recent?
Today, yesterday.
Yesterday. And that was a city of Estacada sticker
Yeah.
or Clackamas County or?
It was the city,
Code enforcement.
yeah,
Okay,
I mean,
Right.
there's no place to park except in
Right.
front of your house.
ready?
I've actually seen a lot of this same conversation online about Shafford being all of a sudden the stop signs are gone. Everybody's speeding on Shafford because that's the easiest way to get across, like she said. So I wonder if we can maybe do a study like we did on Maine or something. That'd be cool.
I'm sure they go faster on Stratford than they do Main Street, especially
Probably.
during school hours because they have the signs and stuff.
Right.
Yeah, it's crazy.
But yeah, it's difficult. When we have no place else to park. Because, well, I'm on a hill, so I have one car in the garage, but you can't park on the hill and feel safe, so.
Right.
But if you guys could at least think about it, think
Definitely.
about it.
We'll more than think about it.
Okay.
How's that?
Trying to get out. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Barbara. Appreciate your comments. Sure can.
Do we not have to keep our sidewalks clean? Of
What,
debris?
what's the issue up there?
Well, across the street, there are homes that face Pierce.
Okay.
Okay, but they have sidewalks on Shafford.
Okay.
They are so gross, you can't hardly get to the mailbox. Now, when it's warm and not raining, I can take my blower over and blow part of it off, but my cord don't go that far. But aren't those people supposed to aren't they responsible, the people that live on Pierce? That's their property back there too.
Yeah, I thought that was be the city, it would be the sidewalks. But if the
No,
people,
I had to clean the snow and the leaves off of my sidewalk.
oh, okay,
Yeah, it is
Yeah.
typically the property owner has the abutting property, so.
okay.
um,
Even though they share two sidewalks, one on Pierce and one on Shafford,
Their property goes clear through, or if they're on the corner, they might have all three.
well,
around
they'd have
there.
all three, right?
Yeah, you're correct. They should keep it clear. So. Mhm. Hmm.
So that's at Carroll and Shafford? Or is it in
Probably
the
second.
second, closer to the middle? Okay,
Would that be a code enforcement situation? I mean, is that something they would check into or no?
yeah, I think we could
Refer
definitely
to-
email them or let her know. They do. Right. Okay. Okay, we could definitely forward that to code enforcement to look into then.
Right,
The
we'll do
frequent-
both.
You mean Shafford, right? Not 224?
Yeah.
Yes. Well, thank you again, Barbara. Appreciate it. Sorry, catching up here. All right. So, okay, moving on to the consent agenda. Do I have a motion to approve the January 3rd, 2023 meeting minutes?
So moved.
Have a first, a second. Any discussion? Second that. Okay, first and second, all in favor?
Yes.
Say aye.
Aye.
Aye. No nays? Okay, motion passes.
Who was the second? I think I heard.
First second was John, the
First, second, and then second.
Third second.
Enthusiastic.
Fourth second.
Excellent, thank you. And we'll move Lieutenant Mendoza down below.
He should be. Oh, did he say 6:30 or 7:30? We might miss him. I think he said 7:30, but in my
Okay.
head, I thought he was only going to be like a half an hour late. But
Okay.
he has another meeting that he doesn't get to attend very often, so he was trying to do that and then come back in. So if, hopefully he'll be able to just realize it's way earlier than I thought it was.
Right.
He'll get online as soon as he can though.
Just so I don't forget,
Mhm.
is there, if something does happen in the future, whether we talk to him about, say, a community policing unit or whatever,
Mhm.
is there a way that this committee could get a hold of him? Whether it be email, phone
Yeah.
number,
Let me find out how he
or
wants.
so we
to
could
be. Yeah.
let them know that we missed you at the last meeting. We had these specific issues. You might want to sit up at Shafford at this time, you know. For more than 5 minutes. I mean, I think a speeding ticket going 60 on Shafford would be a pretty good chunk of money.
Mhm.
Right on time. Good evening. All right, okay, moving on to committee business. I don't know what the committee would like to do, just obviously preliminary. We tackled Main Street. And I thought we did a pretty good job on that as a committee. I think the city council was happy in our product. But I just wanted to know, I just put a few things and sent them to Melanie. Does anywhere where someone would like to go next and further adventure? Randy?
I like the 6 in Main and 6 in Broadway study, but now I think we should do something on Shafford.
Okay,
So
definitely. All right, move Shafford to the top of the list. Nice. Anyone else have any suggestions on where we could look at in town? After Shafford, I mean.
I saw a comment online on one of the local pages that was discussing Eagle Creek and kids getting off the school bus and people not stopping for the school bus and just speeding on by. And that this is not a first occurrence, that it's happening more often.
Okay, where
And-
was that at?
Eagle Creek and it's called. It's right past the Campanella Estates and the,
River Mill, maybe?
it's a little bit before the river mill, yeah.
So near the LDS church?
Yes, yeah,
Okay.
right there. And
Uh,
so.
So it's a bus stop.
It's a school bus stop, yeah, and I took a screenshot of the
Oh, okay.
comment itself, and the mom was saying that that she was really scared and that it was a young person, that's all she could see because it was so fast, and the person was going really fast too.
So the lights were, the red lights were
The red
on
lights were flashing.
and they just kept going.
And they just kept going really fast. And
Yeah.
so, I'm not sure how we would address it, but just to put some.
Did it say anywhere in there that, did anybody report it to anyone or?
No, and I think it kind of goes in hand with what Brandy was saying. People were saying that, oh, nobody investigated us anything and police and yada, 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 a lot of banter about that.
Yeah.
And so,
Mhm.
uh,
Problem. for
Do
sure.
do we have someone at the school district that you generally talk to, Melanie, or do bus drivers like self-report things like that, or?
I am not sure how, I would guess that they do, that they would, have their bus driver meetings and that they would talk about issues like that and how to address that, what's the protocol when something like that happens. But I could forward like that concern onto the SRO also, who could,
Okay,
because I
Yeah.
know that he, keeps an eye on the school zones, although so like, he gets spread a little thin, as we've talked about. But he does, if there's a problem area, we were having some issues with people driving too fast through River Mill School on Broadway there. And so was there kind of highlighting that for a while, and I
That's
could point
good.
this particular situation out to him, and he could
Okay,
keep an eye on that as, as he,
we just want to get on his list. I'm sure
Yeah.
it's long.
I'm sure it is, but yeah, I can email him about that.
Okay, and then, so that's the deputy at the high school?
Yes.
Okay. Excellent.
I'll just
Excellent.
send it out to all the deputies.
Okay,
About that. We'll go send it,
Good.
and whoever's here, when school's in or getting out.
and tag Lieutenant Mendoza on that too.
Yes, yes.
Okay. Excellent. This is something I wanted to talk to since I know we all got excited with the streets and the safety. Now we're
Right.
delving into the public safety, so I'm
Yeah.
excited to hear that. And again, thank you for everybody showing up. We appreciate that. We'd rather have it in person than online.
Mhm.
Do you know what I mean? Excellent. All right. Well, crime statistics, I think we've kind of glanced over that.
Let me say one more thing on that issue.
Go ahead.
Another thing we can add to Lieutenant Mendoza's list. On the stolen vehicles, I don't know if Clackamas County's got what we call a bait car program. I've been involved with them. They're very, very successful in combating stolen vehicles. If Clackamas County has a program set up with their bait cars, we might request that he send a few down here for a couple of weeks to a month. Generally, especially as small as Estacada is, it's a good chance it's just a small group of people that are doing all of them. We don't have a huge crime wave. There's not a bunch of car thieves in Estacada. It's probably just a few people that are doing all of them. And those bait cars, if he's got access to them, if they even have them, let's see if he can get a couple down here and he can explain more in detail what it is. I won't take the time
Okay.
to go
And I-
through all that with you, but
And I think on that recommendation, he offered the traffic unit, his motorcycle unit to provide,
good. Okay.
you know, making sure people were driving
Right,
at
right,
the right
right.
speed or at the right ballpark.
Exactly.
And I mean, I think the motorcycle officers, I don't care what jurisdiction, if it's Los Angeles or Estacada, they definitely gonna make a difference.
Right, right.
You're gonna be like, you're
yeah.
already past them and they're like, oh, man,
Right. Yeah, you're
So-
absolutely right.
he's offered that. So I think we can definitely look at that in the springtime,
Yeah, that'd be good.
getting them here on Shafford too. All right. So I like that, the big cars, Casey, that's good. All right, let's see, moving on to traffic studies and the new developments. My research going through everything, I think I'm up to 10 of the 12 developments. But I definitely need some help on getting some of these because we have some of the developments that go back to. It's like, I think Campanella, the traffic impact study, the transportation impact study was done in 2016. And that was for Campanella for the 316 homes there. So I was wondering if had any volunteers to go on perhaps the planning commission and or city council meetings in their packets and find the 10 up to 100. Brandy,
I'll help.
okay, okay. I
I'll
think-
take a chunk.
Okay, so I got, let's see,
Cool.
let me get my list here. All right. So Brandy's first, so we give Brandy the one with the most houses.
Thanks.
Okay, we do, Brandy, could you do Faraday Hills?
Yep.
Curran Creek Estates,
Sure.
number 1.
Okay.
And Curran Creek Estates 2. So those are only 43 each.
Cool.
So you're
Okay.
welcome.
Thanks.
43.
No, 43 homes.
Oh.
The Current Creek ones are
Yeah.
43 each, but the Faraday, isn't that like
That's 405 houses.
400 and something?
So it's a little bit more. Would you like to do Campanella Estates? All right.
Wait, you're asking to help you with the study, so go.
If you could go and find it. I've already gone maybe 20 hours and I've only found 3 of the 12,
Okay.
just going through the planning commission. So I'm just taking a
And
break.
you're looking for the traffic impact studies?
Yes.
Okay.
And again, when you go to the most recent thing, the most recent city council meeting on Coyote Ridge with Greentown Builders, on one of their tables, they were able to put down in the traffic study, these are all of the other additional homes that will affect not just this development, but the rest of Estacada and their recommendations, which I think will like impact into 2030. So I don't want to double our work by requesting one of these when we think that we should have a turn lane at 6th and Main up top at Planet Cup of Joe, when this traffic study has already recommended it. We can look at other things instead of looking at this. So once we go through this, and we don't have to spin our wheels on this anymore. All right.
So about that, would we
Yep.
just go back through the planning commission meeting?
I think you're gonna find more of the information since the planning commission has the first stages like the annexation and beginning permits.
Okay,
And then if you go to the city council agenda and packets, they're gonna have things that they've voted on, approved, and it'll be more recent,
okay, so on the city of Estacada.
right?
Okay.
Right, city investigator, under the city council.
I think Melanie sent us a link. I was looking at something, I ended up.
That
in
was the planning
2017.
commission, right?
Yeah,
And that's what I've been going through. I went all through 2022 and I got to January 2021 and I was beat.
I was in 2017 for one of these.
Oh,
So, and the other question, or the question is, do they all have traffic studies?
I don't know.
Question.
I'm not sure. Well, they're, traffic, what do they call traffic impact study? I think they're all transportation.
And then there's that one that is, I think, from 2018, where they did some specific intersections. You might be able to.
Right,
You know,
a
check the-
transportation analysis letter. So I
Uh-huh.
think different companies call them different things, but we're all
Okay.
trying to get on the same one there. And also, can you do Eagle Ridge at Curran Creek? Eagle Ridge at Curran Creek, that's 232.
It's different than mine.
Yeah, it's
How many units is that one?
232,
Do you remember what campus?
316.
Jeremiah, where?
Yes.
Quick question. Is it subdivisions that are greater than 10 acres that require a master plan that triggers the TIS?
That's a good question. I
I-
sent that in that email. I can't remember off
I
the top of my
think
head.
it was
but
24 homes required traffic.
let me see if I
something.
can Find it quick.
I can't remember. Is it
Um,
10 acres?
I know that a master plan is required on developments when you're subdividing greater than 10 acres, 10 acres or more. And I don't know if that's what triggers the TIS. or not.
Okay.
Save this.
Oh. No, I didn't.
There was a meeting.
Okay. That was a meeting that you and Casey. Okay, all right. Thank you. Let's see. And
Did you want me to do another one?
let me see.
Well, the number of homes that you mentioned isn't the same as this,
Oh, it
so
isn't.
has it changed?
I don't know, I'm going off of the traffic impact study, traffic impact analysis for Coyote Ridge, the most recent one that came before city council. But that is dated November 2021. So I'm gonna say yours is probably more accurate. And that was on one of the TSP meetings?
I don't remember what meetings.
Yeah, I think it was.
It was.
The open
Yeah.
house, yeah,
But it's
where
got
they
the-
kind of-
The
Okay.
The one where
pictures
I was
and then
online, I
that-
think.
Okay,
And I got it here.
okay, All right.
And what are you looking for in those? Because maybe we have maybe we have that documented. Are you just trying to learn about what they're recommending?
Well, yeah,
directly
what's
from the
been
study?
recommended in the traffic improvements around like River Mill and Eagle Creek or Sixth and Main or Cemetery and Coupland? Pretty much all of them have similar 9, 10, 12 intersections that they require and streetwise. And we want to see if anything's been recommended before 2030. Because we don't want them to, make something and then have to break it up later
Right.
after we've seen it and go ahead.
I'm
John.
sh-
Well,
oh,
I'm
go
just
ahead.
wondering if that older data is moot at this point. We talked about, in fact, that planning commission meeting, they kept talking about something they did in 2011 where the population was about 2,500. And, we're charging towards triple that now.
Right.
And I don't know how many of these subdivisions were even on the books when they started doing the traffic stuff. And so, say Campanella Estates that goes up under, or what's that one, Cascadia Ridge that now
Mhm.
goes all the way back.
Right.
Now you've got 6 or 7 other subdivisions, so it doesn't matter what the traffic study said
Right.
back when it was just that, because it's hundreds
moved
of
now.
more cars.
Yeah,
I'm sure
Current Creek.
that the planning department is tracking with all of those, but if you're doing, if I don't want to stop your due diligence, if you're doing due diligence to look through those and dig those out on your own, I think that's fantastic. But also I could reach out to our planning department because I'm sure they're tracking with those. Because for instance, at one point I heard a 4-way stop was going to be at River Mill. Well, now it's a roundabout or a traffic light, and we're planning for a traffic light, and that just
Right.
got adopted into the capital improvement project list last night. And so I know that our planning department is tracking with those, and maybe they just have a list. And then if you just want to look through those to do your due diligence,
Do they have something or do they have the information that John has? I just have never seen that from the TSP. Yeah, definitely. I don't
Okay.
want anyone having to
I know,
to
yeah.
delve into that. If they have a list of, say, something that's from 2021 and they have updates to that,
Mhm.
just love to see
Let
it on
me
a
could
list.
send- Okay, let me.
That would be great.
Yeah,
Whether it's an email from the say Lancaster Mobley or Lancaster Engineering or Ard Engineering to the city before they put it in there.
And then
Go ahead, Counselor.
I would take a look at the CIP list from last night's in the agenda for last night. It has a list of improvements that are slotted for that are able to be moved forward with, whether or not the priorities are set, aren't quite set, I don't believe on that, but the list of the things that the city is aware of. So then
Okay.
maybe, it's already on the list. It just maybe hasn't gotten far enough on the priority to be taken care of yet,
Okay,
but it could eliminate some of that back and forth too.
yeah,
That'd be
and I
great.
can forward that too, so you're not, I just don't want you to have to dig through things. If we have it easily accessible, but I also understand you might want to dig through things just to make
right.
sure that, they're being interpreted correctly and applied. So,
Okay,
yeah, but I'll send you what we have on that.
okay. All right. Anyone else have anything on that? Okay, John.
I personally recommend deep diving and
Mm-hmm.
that due diligence part. I had no idea how much information was out there and how much work had been done that I had no idea about. The hardest part is finding it.
Mhm.
But so like get into that link and next thing you know, you're 5 years ago looking at that kind of stuff. And it would give us a relatively new committee. It would give us a broader understanding of what they're thinking and what's been done. And it just would make us more efficient.
Yeah, I
moving
agree.
forward.
If it's
So-
specifically the TISs that you're looking for,
Absolutely.
those would be in the approved subdivision packets
Okay.
when they get. I imagine Taylor would be very easily be able to get the
Okay,
TISs, they're attached, or the city council meeting, whenever it gets approved, it's in the packets for the agenda then, but I would imagine it wouldn't be too difficult to pull up 12 of them.
I don't know about that. So, but let me find out because I was,
okay.
I don't know how easy they are to pull out, and I didn't want them to do a whole bunch of searching when we
Right.
could just send you and you guys could pull them up. But let me find out if
Yeah.
that is the easiest, if it's easiest to just send out, if they have them in a folder that I'm just not aware of.
Okay.
We'll see what, if we can get you direct information, but it should all be out there in those packets too,
Okay.
so that everybody can. I didn't, can't sleep at 2 o'clock in the morning, you can read
That's
about
fine.
something.
Or is there a list of the dates that they were approved?
That might.
the
that could
subdivisions?
be, yeah,
Because that would narrow down the previous meeting where you could
of
go
where
right to
they
the
could
agenda
go.
packet.
Thank you. That'd be good.
We do have that project page too, that tells you, I think, which day, but anyway. And I did pull up when a traffic impact study is required. And there's a whole variety of reasons they might be required. It's a change in zoning or comprehensive plan designation. The creation of 10 or more new residential lots by subdivision. So that's pretty small, just 10 lots. The operational or safety concerns documented in writing by a road authority. An increase in site traffic volume generation by 300 average daily trips or more. An increase in peak hour volume, and it kind of goes on. There's an increase in the use of adjacent streets by 10 or more vehicles per day, exceeding 20,000 pound gross vehicle weight. So maybe in an industrial area or commercial. And existing or proposed approaches or access connections that do not meet minimum spacing or site distance requirements or are located where vehicles entering or leaving the property are restricted, and it kind of goes on. So there's a lot of reasons where they might be required. It's a pretty thorough process, and there definitely is a lot of information out there to read about it.
Definitely. Thank you.
So then I really wonder if, for example, the issues we see on, is it Shafford?
Shafford.
Were addressed when, is it Cascadia Ridge that they brought in, or is it the other neighborhood that they built up there that's causing all the traffic?
Well, there's Reagan Hill.
Reagan
is
Hill,
up
that's the one.
Fourth,
Yeah.
right? And it's what, Shafford and Ginseng and Oakview and then Reagan Hill. So
So
you got a
then,
couple of streets,
so it was, so,
but Shafford is the main corridor to the high school.
okay.
That's the raceway there.
So then I wonder if that was included in the traffic impact study.
I don't know.
Okay, I guess we will have to find out.
Okay, can do that. So Carrie, you still up for looking? Brandy, sorry, go ahead.
Just real quick, I wanted to add to that. I would like to know too, like what made the decision to take these stop signs down? Why, what was the research and why was that
Yeah.
decided? Because it seems a little like,
When that, I could speak a little bit to that. When the street was reconstructed and the side, there was not sidewalks on both sides for the full length of the street, and it was actually not even paved. It wasn't paved the full width of the street. And so when that was re-engineered, it was engineered to have the speed bumps instead of the stop sign. So it would provide a more, instead of a race up and stop or almost stop, who really stops, and then race again and stop or race again. It was supposed to be more of a rolling, you hit this speed bump and probably race between the speed bumps. But that was how that street was engineered to do that, designed to do that, which is a good test run because we get a lot of like in certain areas of town, we get requests for speed bumps, and are they really effective? Sometimes they are. But that's why the stop signs were taken out and the speed humps were put in during that reconstruction of that road.
Well, I think it's safe to say we can, whatever the numbers were before the change on Shafford, we can definitely get some numbers now with that and then compare and then go from there. Everybody okay with that? Yeah, okay. Let's see. Yes.
So this list is the bigger subdivisions, but you sent us a link that maybe it was listing all the projects, and some of them like Duval one or whatever the names were, but the list was significantly longer than this 11 or 12. It was significantly longer. And it was useful information because it was kind of giving an idea. It wasn't clear to me exactly, but it gave an idea of, if they're already building or not. But part of what we were talking about was being able to give our 2 cents when it came to how the developers were, like if they're going to do common ways or whatever you call that kind of stuff. But there's just so much more than just this list.
Right.
And so, if this is 600 new homes or however many it is, there's a lot more than that coming. And so just making that comment and keeping that in mind when we're looking at this traffic stuff. And then specifically regarding Shafford. It's Shafford, right? That's my plan B when the 4th Street Hill is out. And, I can't tell you. Well, actually I could, how many tries it takes sometimes to get up that hill, but more importantly, coming down. And the idea of them not having to stop, that's a bad combination in bad weather, because I just saw it on Hayden, I think Monday or recently, where someone slid through
Oh, yeah.
and went down right in the gutter. And in fact, we may have talked about that already, coming down Carroll in bad weather and just sliding all the way across.
Into the fence of the fire hydrant there.
Yeah, we've got a big dog right there. Anyways.
Excellent. Okay, so Carrie, do you want to look at a couple or?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I'll give you the Northbrook subdivision. That's 118 single-family houses.
Okay.
And you want to take Dugan Estates Part 1 and 2, that's 102 houses. And Dugan Estates 3 to 7, that's 145.
How many were on Northbrook?
118. And then I'll take the Coyote Ridge development and Valley View. But thank you, everyone, for doing that. Appreciate it.
Valley View,
Yes.
it says
I just-
Vista Knoll here.
Let's see. That was done back in December of 2019, 62 single-family dwellings. Plat approved, no building permits issued, but I'm sure that's been updated since. You don't see it on there?
No, this one's
Okay.
called Vista Knoll, and it's about 20 single family lots. So I'm not sure.
I
Okay,
think that's up by Reagan Hill. Is that up by Reagan
I
Hill?
think so.
Just in all?
I don't know. Oh, wait. Number 12. Yes,
yes to know well.
Okay.
You said it's 20?
yes, sir.
Okay. Check that out.
And Valley View is that kind of between Hinman and Cemetery Road?
Oh, that's right.
I think it is. And that one might be paused. I don't know if I've heard of any movement on that one. It's not the Valley View Airport, but it's a subdivision that is confusing because it's the same name.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you. Appreciate that. All right. Number 4, school zone crossings. I think we gave a recommendation to Public Works Director. Was he okay with those recommendations?
Yes, he was
1 through
okay.
5?
Yes, he was okay with those and we'll begin working on those. I don't know if we've made any headway in the past 3 weeks, but they are on the list. And we appreciate that this committee weighing in on that, helping prioritize.
Okay, that's good. That was what, Main and Northeast First, 6th and Main, 6th and Broadway, 2nd and Main, 2nd and Pierce, and 2nd and Broadway.
Yep.
Yep. Is that it?
Mhm.
Yep.
Mhm.
Okay. Let's see.
Any ETA on that, Melanie?
I do not have an ETA on that.
All right, okay. Say priority roads for improvement. I'm gonna say Shafford is right at the top there. Right? Definitely
Yeah.
look into that for traffic calming and less speeding. I don't know if we're always gonna get no speeding, but less speeding would definitely be a good thing. Does anyone else have any other areas that they've heard in town that are priority? John?
Well, just again, that bottleneck up on 4th.
Oh, right with the 4 acres on the left.
Yeah, yeah.
The pinch point there.
Yeah.
Okay. So between Ginseng and Southeast Oakview. Okay. Shafford is one. All right. Does anyone else have any other ones?
Sixth Street, like, once you go on that curve, where Sixth, you know, like, where the gas station is. If you
Yes.
turn right there, people just start going 45 before they hit the 45. You just go for it. That's what I've noticed. I'm guilty of doing it, so.
So right near the Shell station?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, it's even bad on Six, like all of Six, but I've just noticed like what, it's like that curve is like a go button for people.
So at the Shell, before you hit the laundromat,
Yep.
10th.
Yeah.
That starts the right way there. Even
Like
though-
right as it's
It doesn't
turning into
start
Eagle
45
Creek.
till you hit that housing addition, right? Or just
It's
past
not,
it?
yeah, it's like when
Right.
you don't even hit 45 until
After
Campanilla,
After
after
Campanella.
Campanilla,
after
but
Campanella.
people are going it by the
Okay.
time they hit the laundromat, they're going 45.
And let's see. ADA access and safety. We have obviously recommended items here on Main Street.
Sorry.
That's okay. Like, no. On downtown here, I think we might have some more recommendations over on Broadway, once we get to Broadway. But does anyone have anything that sticks out for ADA access?
Right here in the front. Oh, I'm sorry.
That's
No,
okay.
go ahead.
Well, we got the steps here. We did the Christmas thing, Christmas tree and stuff.
Here.
We need some kind of a pleasing way to come down by the steps also for wheelchair. I think we all remember there was a lady that, you know, almost couldn't make it down the steps and somebody caught her in the wheelchair as she went down the steps with the wheelchair. So that's right out here.
Okay. John?
And so this ties in because it had to do with the cutouts for the ADA and the conversation at with the urban planning meeting that you guys were at. And so a couple of things. One, the engineer talked about a 40-foot neck into the side streets. But wouldn't that be 20 feet? Because isn't the idea to stay in the lane? And so, I mean, in fact, that was what the comment from the fire department was that if you've got one car, it's bad enough having the one car back up, but if there's two cars there. And so frankly, I thought that was disingenuous to say that there's a 40-foot. And so it's not going to be a problem. And then there was a lot of discussion at that meeting about a stop sign at Third. Again, I literally just saw someone slide across from Hayden across. And so,
Right.
you know, when weather's bad, I think that's a legitimate concern. The conversation of not having someone from that facility have to cross 3 streets instead, you know, and just cross one, I think that's very sound.
Right.
And I know there's a lot of.
You mean down at 300 Main?
Yes, sir.
Yeah,
And I know there's a lot of people crossing right there. But again, a bit dismissive from the reality on the ground. And then and the angled parking. I don't remember who the commissioner was, but made a great comment about if you're an angled parking backing out. She was using the Broadway as an example. Well, the speed limit on Broadway is really low. If I've done, you know, I'm in Salem every day and downtown, they've got angled parking. And when you're trying to back out, if you've got any kind of vehicle of size next to you, you can't see anything and you're literally just rolling the dice when you're backing out. So a strong negative on angled parking on Main Street, because it's especially around here. I mean, everyone's got it. I feel bad because I don't have a truck. Everyone's got a truck around here. And so that just inhibits line of sight.
Definitely.
So there you go.
Counselor?
And that's where it landed with the engineer going back to make corrections was no, as far as I remember, no diagonal parking.
That's
It's
what I
gonna be
remember.
Parallel parking.
Yeah.
Right.
Exploring options for adding additional parking on the lot next to Sol Tapatio, if that was possible, that kind of a awkward sized lot over there where the Pro Cops was, making that, but that's where it landed. We haven't seen the mock-up of that yet, but getting rid of the bump outs, getting rid of the angled parking.
Yeah.
Kind of
Goodness.
simplifying the game plan for that.
Excellent.
And your guys' comments and feedback weighed real heavy at the council meeting. And I can't think of anything that you guys recommended that wasn't well received by the council.
Thank you.
Appreciate you guys'
that.
work on that.
I have a question.
Yes.
While we're talking about this. I can't remember if it was from engineering or public works that asked me this question, so I'll just have to go tell everybody and see who says thank you. But they wanted to know how you feel about the flashing lights for the crosswalk, like having a flashing, where you push button to cross at Fourth. If it's going to be a four-way stop, do you still think it's necessary for the, to have the crossing flashing beacons, or with the four-way stop, is that not necessary? What's your recommendation on that as a group?
Katie?
I think we should still have the flashing lights because I think it's a busy street. And if you have a four-way stop and I'm stopping myself and looking to see everybody stopped, it kind of takes my eyes off the pedestrian.
Mhm.
That's just my personal opinion.
I agree. A lot of times you see people think of these stop signs and things as guidelines
Yep.
instead of laws. So it's like driving in Europe. So I think the lights would be a good idea.
Brandy,
I agree too. I think we need it.
because I
like the
think we
lights.
agreed that it was a four-way stop, the push button with the lights, but the lights on the street were in question on the crosswalk
Yeah, we'll have to look and see if the, in the
for,
street or,
simple paving or whatever. So, but I think that's what
but the
the,
push button, flashers. for
definitely at
pedestrians.
Fourth and Main,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you for that question. All right, so let's see, moving on to committee reports and comments. Randy,
I just had a quick question. Since we don't have chiefman or lieutenant, do we call him chief or lieutenant?
I never know. I call him.
he holds both
I call him the
titles.
chief, and then I also call him lieutenant.
So,
because
since Chief Mendoza's not here, do you guys want me to give you the information I learned today? I did like 3 interviews today and got a bunch of information. I thought it was really important to know. I was hoping I could talk to Chief Mendoza about it, but I'm sure if he comes in late or, we can find a way to communicate this information to him. But if you guys want to hear it, I'd love to tell you what happened. Okay.
Everyone, yes,
Yeah.
good, all right.
Cool. So one of our managers in a business in town knows myself and my husband pretty well. And typically she even told me this today, that they could call me, they could call my husband, they could call the mayor and count on them to show up long before the police do. And this is not the first time I've heard this. And then she told me, she just texted me out of the blue and said, hey, did you, because she knows we're part of this committee now and that we're trying to make some changes and bring some things to light. And she asked, did you hear about the 2 muggings in town? And my jaw dropped. I had no idea. I know she posted it online, which I think is where Carolyn read it. But I had no idea in Estacada that we would have muggings. And so I asked her to set up a meeting. So I went in there this morning to her business and I talked to her and got the information from what the victims had said. And so what happened was one of the gentlemen, he lives around the food cart area. One night, Sunday night, the 15th, he was restless about 10:30 at night. He went for a walk around the food carts. That's his neighborhood. And he was jumped by 3 people. They came behind him, they pushed him down, they beat the crap out of him. I saw pictures of his stomach and it's like this big of a circle on his stomach that's black and blue. They're having to check to make sure he doesn't have internal bleeding. I mean, it's bad. And he said he noticed there were 3 young males, 2 Hispanic, 1 white. That's what they told me, but he did not report. He said he didn't report it because every time he's reported anything to the police in Estacada, they either don't show up at all or they take forever to show up. And when they do, they're disregarding the seriousness of the situation. This is coming from them, not from me, obviously. The second mugging was 2 days later on the 17th. It happened on the Rock on Lake Shore. This was a young man walking his, I don't know how old he was, but he was walking his dog. And again, 3 people threw him down on the ground, beat him up. The first one on the 15th, they got a half a pack of cigarettes because it was the middle of the night and the guy was just taking a walk. I don't know what they got from the second guy. They didn't tell me. But he was beat up by 3 people as well, attacked from behind. Obviously, this sounds like the same individuals, I'm guessing, but I'm not a police officer, so I don't know. I do know that neither one of these people reported because, again, this second person didn't feel that there was any point because either they don't think they'll show up or they think that there's nothing they can do.
What was the time on the second one?
Thank you.
The time on the second one, I think they said was around 7 or 8 p.m. So it wasn't quite as late, but it was getting dark. Then I went to the post office. I heard about this from our mayor. Actually, he told me, one of you from the Traffic and Public Safety Committee should go down and talk to her because there's something going on there. So I went and talked to her. I can't remember her name. But she gave me an in detail situation that happened about 2 weeks ago on a Wednesday at 8:40 in the morning. My question for Mendoza would be, isn't that a contracted time for police to be in town within a 5-minute range? I'm not sure, but I'm pretty sure that's when they should be within 5 minutes. So what happened was a lady came frantic into the post office. They know this lady. She's a homeless woman that is known for staying in the post office and they can't really do much about it because it's federal property. And they're not going to lock up the post office because they want people to access their mail. She came in screaming frantic that someone was chasing her down with a gun. And that the same individual was holding a gun to her boyfriend's head. The lady that I spoke to at the post office called 911 and let them know that a gun was involved. This lady was obviously on something or frantic or something was seriously wrong. While she turned to call 911, this lady hopped the counter of the post office. There's only 2 ladies there in the morning. Okay. It's a federal building, so they're not allowed to have things like concealed carry to protect themselves. So they don't really have a way to protect themselves. This lady hops over their counter. She was able to get her back across to the right area so that she's not behind there where it's not safe for them. And they waited an hour and a half for the police to show up. When they called about a gun, they waited an hour and a half for the police to show up to our post office. And I'm wondering why this keeps happening, especially on a day, like this is just my personal opinion, but on a day that we're assured that we're paying for them to be in town and that's supposed to be a 5-minute response time. I want to know why that happened. I'm not like attacking or anything, but I really would like to know what's going on there.
Could you repeat the day and time that happened?
I know it was a Wednesday at 8:40 a.m. And she said it was the same day that accident happened on 224 about 2 weeks ago. She couldn't remember the exact date. But that was reported. So I'm wondering if we can find out what the report says for that one. She gave me some more information that I think we need to bring light to. She let me know that she's heavily convinced, and this is coming from the post office employee, not myself, just so you know. And this also is coming from the other lady I talked to with the muggings, the people that were mugged. All these people had a common thread with this conversation, not only that the police are not responding and they don't feel safe anymore. They won't even go outside anymore without somebody with them, but also that they feel that there's a certain organization in town that is causing a problem and bringing homeless into town. This organization is Ant Farm. And what the post office woman said was ever since Ant Farm bought Harmony Bakery, there's a little shack behind Harmony Bakery. It's like a dilapidated little red shack. And they're allowing these specific people, the ones that were involved in the gun situation, they're the ones, those two men were being allowed to stay there in that shack. And she knows this because she heard the head of Ant Farm tell the police during that report. So I wonder if it's in that report. I'm not sure. But I'm also wondering, that's obviously against code, and we probably should see if we can get code enforcement out there to do something. I see the heart, I get the heart of the situation, but I also see the damage it's doing. We also had a situation not too long ago where we saw a guy peeing on City Hall lawn. And this also was part of a Chevron situation over across the Chevron, which we've heard many times from them. They have problem with these homeless coming in and causing problems, and then they come over to City Hall and there was one guy that pooped on City Hall, and then there's this guy peeing on City Hall. And then the one other person I talked to.
One of our first city council meetings, when I was new here, I'd ask about the homeless population, and I was afraid that with what was going on in Portland, how they're really ramping down on that homelessness, that we were going to see an influx out here.
Mhm.
And that's exactly what's taking place now.
Yeah,
So we never did hear back, did we, guys, about the laws that we have on the books, and are they stringent enough to deal with the homeless population? Because we're going to get this problem.
yeah,
Since Portland is now, they're basically rounding them up, and those people don't want to be in those facilities. So they're going to go where it's more lax, and we don't have a facility.
well, that's
So
what I
this is going to
heard.
be one of those issues.
That's what I heard today too, was another reason with all this, the homeless activity, the things happening. They call, even if they do call the police, they show up for forever ago, but the police have no power to do anything, is what the common thought is. There's another lady that I talked to today who she lives in the Elm Street Apartments. There's a woman that lives, and they told me to give the number. So number 9 at Elm Street Apartments, she's known to be causing problems over there. This one woman is so terrified, she can't even step outside she has a newborn baby. She can't even step outside her apartment without somebody with her to have a cigarette, because she's afraid of this woman who keeps coming and banging on her door and pounding on her walls all throughout the day and night, just losing her mind on this woman. And she's called the police, and the police can't do anything because she legally lives in the apartment building.
A lot of times your homeless people, it's not illegal to be homeless. It's not illegal to have mental issues. So as a police officer, when you go out there, the only thing you can do to get that person removed from that situation and taken is you have to prove one of two things. They're a threat to themselves, or they're a threat to others. And if they're not making suicidal statements and they haven't charged anybody, they haven't tried to attack anybody as a police officer, then the only thing you can fall back on is, are they on private property? And is that homeowner, that business owner going to sign a trespassing ticket, which is a misdemeanor? And you're not going to, in this day and age, nobody's going to jail for misdemeanors. So it's
Yeah.
a ticket. And when you write a homeless person a ticket, that's not going to get paid. I mean, I get what's going on, and I
Yeah.
agree. It's frustrating, and that's been,
My question is,
you know,
this lady sent me a video. She has video evidence of this woman pounding on her door, standing outside her door, won't leave. Can they do anything about that? I mean, you would think, just because that woman lives in a different apartment in the same building,
Right.
I don't think she has the right to stand outside and intimidate this woman at her doorstep all day long, does she? I mean, I don't know the answer to that question. But these are what I got all this information today, so excuse me if it's
No,
not
that's,
pretty.
thank
but-
you.
It was a long day.
I think we can, go ahead, John.
Well, I've got a question about, I know there's federal law and I know there's state law. And I don't know if there's such a thing as a county law or a city law, or if it's called that, if it's an ordinance. But I remember that meeting that you were talking about, and we did ask, are there any city ordinances that might help us with this sort of situation?
Right.
And if not, is that an option? You know, that's not addressing the actual enforcement or consequence part, but at least does something like that exist? I I'd be interested in.
Yeah, I don't think we ever got an answer on that.
Mhm.
And I kind of was afraid this was gonna happen when
Right.
I brought it up. And I
Absolutely.
didn't even know if we had a homeless situation here. I know
We
Brandy
didn't.
answered that and
I
she said
mean,
we did.
There
But
were
I said it's
longer
coming
period of time.
because of
Little.
what's happening in Portland.
And now it's happening
Yeah,
closer to each
I
other.
mean, it's not illegal. That's the problem. There's no laws really to clamp down on this issue. It comes down to basically a trespassing situation. And on federal property, if those post office people are not willing to sign a citation,
They
nothing's
can't.
gonna happen, right?
Right.
And then you know, it's a slap on the wrist, and homeless people don't have the means to pay their tickets. So what happens is that goes to a warrant. But then as a police officer, when you come out and deal with that, when you pick up somebody who has one misdemeanor warrant, it's not worth the time from Estacada to drive one person for a city misdemeanor warrant 30 minutes to my county facility to book them in. You're gonna wait till they have 8 or 9 or 10 lined up. And then it's worth your effort and your time because they're gonna be in there for a while. So
Right.
you're gonna just write them a ticket and you're gonna let them go. And then when you run them next time, yeah, she's got a warrant. Well, here's another ticket. And you're gonna write them another ticket and you're gonna write them another. And every time you know their warrants are stacking up. And there will come a time where finally, okay, that's enough, do this. It's the homeless stuff is coming. So we got to figure out what we have and what we can do, what Clackamas County Sheriff's Office can do to help us out. So
Can I, before I get to you, can I just ask Melanie? And I think this is before you came on counselor to the city council. There was something that was done. What was it? Something in public. I can remember something last year, whether it was not having your clothes on.
Oh,
or
yeah, the naked
Yeah.
law. Mhm.
the-
The
yeah.
nudity law.
And there was something about drugs, whether it was 2021 or it was early 2022. Is there, I'm just trying to think of where, would that be under the Estacada Municipal Code, or I'm just trying to think when the city council passed those
If the
local
city,
ordinances,
The city council passed ordinance, then it would be in the city code.
the city code.
Yes, and we do have, that's a tough situation. And it's something that we all need to kind of put our heads together to work on probably. We do have, no littering and befouling, it's called, and that's that.
What was that second one?
Befouling, it's an old word. So they can't come and make a mess, or they can get trespassed, but then where do they go? Across the street or to the river? And so,
Right.
and they find a different place. Our unhoused population has typically been very seasonal because there's not services or places to be necessarily out here when the weather gets too terribly cold. But there's still, there are still people that have those issues. And I know that our deputies are very good about being able to work. We've had usually by the time I notice it, it's a bigger issue. But they work with people all the time about behavioral health, mental health, and they have been really good about trying to get people to the help that they need. But then once they get them there, do they stay? Not always. So it's kind of it is an ongoing, it's something that.
it's been going on for decades. Yeah.
Yeah.
Katie?
We kind of, I don't know if we skipped over it or if I just didn't catch it, but on number 6 on the committee business on the neighborhood watch, that if we could get that off the ground, that neighborhood watch thing, I think that would help combat some of this stuff.
Right.
We could have somebody that's dedicated to just do the downtown businesses.
Right.
It's not a neighborhood. There's no houses down here, but we could have somebody assigned to be down here.
Right.
And when I checked with my neighbors, if they were going to be willing to do this, I said, there's no enforcement action. We're not asking you to get involved in anything. Don't go touch anybody. Don't talk to anybody. It's just, if you see something suspicious, you call and report it. That's your only thing.
Right.
And you stay well enough back that you're not in any danger. We could do that here. It sounds like most of these issues are happening in the downtown area, not necessarily the neighborhoods, which is great.
Right.
But that's something I think on the neighborhood watch side of it, we could maybe do that. But again, they're going to call Clackamas County, and if it's nothing that's really egregious, anything that's felony in nature, it's only going to go so far.
Right.
Right.
And I think Melanie, you sent something out in regards to Lieutenant Mendoza's office, that someone is there that does training for neighborhood watches. So we
Yes.
could get that person out here to say, neighborhood watch for
Right.
Reagan Hill or Campanella, or
Sure.
we could have members of the community
Right.
attend something like that. And then we can
Maybe-
get something on the website or fill out a form, or like you said, have a phone number. So they could go to something more specific. Something's happening.
Maybe she could come and do a presentation for you at one of your meetings. They could reach
That
out
would be
to her.
great.
Did this committee sign up to be at What's Up Estacada? next
Yes.
month? And so maybe I could even get some brochures before that. Ask her to, or send some out, maybe Mendoza can bring some out to us, and that way you can have those available to hand out
Okay,
to people. Oh, yeah.
that'd be great. Katie, sorry.
So, for suspicious activity, you're saying, is there a phone number that people can call if there is suspicious activity? Because we have half the signs up in Campanella, and if there is any, do we call just the non-emergency?
Yeah,
phone?
it depends on what, I mean, if it's a property crime, generally you'll, but if it's a crime in progress, you always want to go through 911, even if it's a misdemeanor type crime, you always go through 911 because when you do that, it's logging your information for the dispatchers to be able to reach back out to you. It documents your phone number. So then, God forbid, something tragic happens when that deputy meets that person, they have a way to at least reach back out and contact you and say, hey, what led up to this? What did you see? When you call a non-emergency, those aren't recorded most of the time, and they have no way of your caller ID information doesn't pop up. So the non-emergencies, like you get home, your house has been broken into. It's not in progress. It's already done, non-emergency. But if it's something that's taking place right then, we always
Do you
encourage them
want
to,
call 911?
yep, yep.
Oh,
Yep.
because-
Progress.
If it's in
okay.
progress, we always want to do a
Good.
911. Yep.
Because we've had a bit of suspicious things happening in Campanella, and then the neighbors right away say, oh, call non-emergency. I was not aware. of
Yeah, if it's over and there's nothing going on, I mean, the person's long gone or something, you can do non-emergency if it's just a report type deal. So,
So
Or
then-
if you want to have a deputy reach out to you and give you a call, you could call non-emergency,
Right.
and that's a good way to do it.
and a lot of
Just in
times,
general.
and this kind of goes back with what Carolyn said. Officers won't necessarily, anytime you call the police, you expect one to show up. But in reality, they're stretched thin, and I know Clackamas County is the same way. So what I did even in my city, which is a huge city compared to this area here, we did a lot of stuff over the phone. We didn't go out because we didn't have the time. We didn't have enough officers to go out for a report call. So we would call the person, get all the information on the phone, or there was a website they could go to online and fill it out themselves. And yeah, it became very impersonal, and those people felt disconnected, and we were disconnected from them. But we just didn't have enough officers. And I know that Lieutenant or Chief Mendoza had mentioned, just like everybody else in law enforcement, they're short-staffed. And it's hard to find and train and fund people to get in there. So their resources are stretched. So everything that they can do by telephone or having you do it online, they're going to do that so that they can be saved for the few officers to go to the in progress things. But like we discussed before, we're so far removed. So your ETA, we talked about having a city police department here. That'd be great because we can knock our estimated time of arrival down to about 5 minutes per call. And I had mentioned that if that deputy needs to come here in a hurry, it's going to take them 20 minutes. And that's running code 3, lights and sirens. It may take them 20 minutes because they're on a complete other side. So it's just finding that balance, So.
So then if we do put the Estacada Neighborhood Watch on, would we be able to invite pretty much anybody to the meeting, right?
Sure.
Because it's an open house.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
I've been sitting here forever. Sorry, yeah, Brandy's had a question.
I'm only looking this way, obviously. There we go.
Yeah, start kicking.
I just had a couple comments. The neighborhood watch thing I think is great. I don't think it's a mystery in the past, I've tried to do that myself with my nonprofit, and we got a lot of negative crap and people giving us all kinds of hell. So we put a kibosh on it. But I think the city doing it might have a better response. So I think that's great. And having the Clackamas County be able to train people to make that happen, I think it's always a good idea. I want to stress, these people put their trust in me to get the exact message across. So I wanted to make sure I stressed that there was a little bit more from the post office lady she wanted me to say. she wanted me to make it very clear that when Harmony Bakery changed ownership, this problem increased tenfold. I mean, she saw an instant change. And that's because there's certain things being allowed on that property now that were not allowed before. She's also, her and I've discussed the concern that right next to that, also owned by that organization, is a community garden that our children are involved in. They invite the middle school, they invite the kids to be involved in this community garden, yet they're housing specific people in a shed that's not to code either, that have a history of not being tidy, leaving certain tools like needles and things like that. It's a bad situation. She wanted me to make sure I stress that. Unfortunately, Chief Mendoza's not here. I was supposed to stress that to him, but maybe we can all talk to him about it when we do get a chance. I think that's just a scary situation. There are other ways to approach the subject to help make a difference, I believe, than that. And the community is screaming out right now. I mean, it's no coincidence that I spoke to several people today and got all these phone calls and had to talk to all these people. They trust me to bring it, or they trust my husband, or they trust people we know, or for some reason, they trust us more than the police right now, to actually do something. Not that I have any power, but at least I'm going to talk about it and see if we can do something. I think that's just really sad that people that work at a post office are terrified to go into work every morning now. I think it's sad that a woman can't step out of her home and have a cigarette. These guys can't take a walk at night. Something needs to be done. I hear what you're saying, that police are stretched thin. There's certain things they can't do, but there are things they can do. And I do think that if we're contracting them, there's certain hours that Mendoza guaranteed us a certain response time. I mean, we should at least have that, right? One of these was in the middle of the day when we're supposed to have that, 5 to 15 minute response time? Hour and a
Yes.
half is not that. So, I mean, I'd like to find out ways that we can help assist that, but also our community is crying out for more than what they're getting. So I think we need to find a way to help facilitate that. And I'm done. Thank you.
Thank you, Brady.
Got a
Jerry.
question. ACV, what is the parameter for an officer to suspect drug abuse? Like somebody's jacked up on fentanyl or something. I mean.
Well, there's every city kind of has a different thing. For where I worked, I had to just say that I had been through training. I have reasonable suspicion, and that was all I needed. If I think you're intoxicated, not driving a car, I'm talking about just out in public, you're walking, a pedestrian, and I feel like you're drunk, I can take you to jail, and there's nothing there's no breath test you can give me to prove otherwise. It's my word, you're going to jail. The only time that comes into play is if we operate a motor vehicle. Then I have to have the probable cause that you were driving, that you committed a traffic offense, and then try to give you a field sobriety test. If you refuse, then we go down, give you the breath test, give you the blood test. As far as the drug aspect, that falls under the same parameters as being drunk in public. There's just one charge. It's public intoxication, and that covers liquor and that covers drugs. There's no special one for booze and one for drugs. It's all the same thing, but it's a misdemeanor. It's a misdemeanor. With us, we were obligated to, if we came across somebody who was intoxicated, we felt that they were drunk or under the influence of drugs, I had to take them to a detox facility or the county jail. We would give them the option. The detox facility, they had to stay 8 hours. There was no ticket written. They just had to go sit and sober up and have a good meal and a good sleep, and they could get out. But if they were acting up, or if I knew they were going to cause a problem, then I'd go book them in jail. Here again, the problem that we're running into is that we're so far removed that a lot of times if you take a deputy, he comes across somebody who's intoxicated, liquor or drugs, and to transport him all the way to the Clackamas County Jail, he's going to be out of service for at least maybe 2 hours after the paperwork's all said and done and come back. So they're probably leaning more towards, hey, look, stern warnings. You need to go over there and find a tree and go to sleep. They don't cause me more problems and we're gonna go, you know, and that's the way, and I'm guilty. I did it too, because you had so many other things going on. But that's what it's gonna fall under, and misdemeanor crimes are just not a priority. I mean, because the jails are overcrowded and you know, that's just where it's at, so. Yeah, not a good, it's not what you want to hear, but that's just the way it is.
Councilor McElroy?
I just heard a really common thread about a lot of things happening and people not reporting them because of an anticipated lack of response. And I think that we should really work on communicating to those people that the sheriff's department and Lieutenant Mendoza is not going to be able to correct a problem with response time or anything like that unless those things are documented. If they make a report and then the documentation will be there for a response time. But if someone never, a phantom problem, you can't really make corrections or make adjustments to really find out what the problem is if people aren't documenting the problems. So if
Yeah.
there's a long response time, when they call in and it takes 2 hours to get out there and it's documented, then we can go back and look at the problem, see what the issue was, why there was a long response time. But I think that it would be really frustrating if I were in his shoes,
Yeah.
trying to correct a problem
Definitely.
that nobody's reporting. Well, if you have all these crimes that aren't being reported because there's no response to it, well, how would they correct that? They wouldn't have the opportunity to correct that. If all those calls were coming in and they weren't doing something about it, we would have documentation of that the crimes aren't getting solved or the response time is slow. So I would just strongly encourage the people that are getting discouraged by a lack of response to still document the incident for the sake of, if not for the response to come out, for future people to have a better response time, to get the problem corrected. I would just encourage everyone that you speak with to still make that phone call.
I have.
And then it would just give them an opportunity to fix the issue.
Yeah, I have done that. I tried to stress that today. There were two separate problems here. The one was the people that didn't report because in the past, they have had not a good response from the police. So I guess, yeah, it's an anticipated thing, but also it's a thing that they've experienced. And then the other problem was the post office where it took an hour and a half. Oh, there he is. Hey.
Melanie, he's on.
Hello there. Lieutenant
He's-
Mendoza?
Muted, I think.
Yeah, yep, there we go.
Hi,
Good evening, Chief. How you doing?
good. Thank you. How are you guys?
Excellent. We just had a long discussion about some reported crimes and some unreported crimes. Would you like a crash course version of that?
Sure, I'll take it. Thank you.
Okay. Brandy, you wanna?
Yeah, sure. Hi there. I just gave them kind of a long version of some conversations I had today. I met with a couple people today that had reported to me yesterday, and then I met with them this morning that had been mugged in town. One was on the 15th at 10:30 PM around behind the food carts. And one was on the 17th around 7 to 8 PM off Lake Shore on the Rock. They both did not report, which I did encourage them to next time report. They stressed to me the reasoning that they did not report was because in the past, they haven't had a good response. One of them, I had a picture of the guy. I mean, he's beat up really bad. His whole stomach is back in black and blue. They both the first one on the 15th said it was 3 young men, 2 Hispanic, 1 white. The second one on the 17th said it was 3 young men, but didn't see them. And then also the other person I talked to today was a lady at the post office. This event was reported. There was a lady, it was on a Wednesday at 8:30, 8:40 in the morning. This lady came running over to the post office screaming about a guy chasing her with a gun, or that this guy had a gun to her boyfriend's head, or both. She ended up jumping over the counter at the post office. The lady at the post office got her back where she should be, again, called 911, and she said it took an hour and a half for the police to show up. so those are some incidences that I talked about today. Also, a lady that she lives in her apartment complex. There's a crazy lady that lives there that won't leave her alone, like literally stands outside her apartment. She sent me a video today. She said that's been reported, but they've been told that they can't do anything unless the landlord is willing to kick her out. I just wanted to bring those to you and see if there's something we can do. I know you can't do anything about stuff that's not reported, but maybe we can do something about the fact that people don't feel the presence of the police as much. That's all I have.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that, first off, for this, system of government and law enforcement to be effective, right? We have to have the trust of the people, and they have to be willing to, approach us and file those reports if there's a crime that's committed, so we can follow up on that, investigate it, and hold people accountable. So that's disheartening to hear that there was some hesitation to do that. I'm curious if they went into any detail on as to why they were reluctant to report.
The guy that on the 15th, from what I understand, he didn't report because he didn't, for one, they only got a half pack of cigarettes out of him. He didn't have any money on him or anything. And two, because his experience with the police in the past was that they kind of pushed him aside and didn't really take note of his concerns. And then the one on the 17th, I have no idea why he didn't report, because I didn't talk to him.
Okay.
Talked to the lady who talked to him.
Okay. Well, my expectation for our deputies is that they treat everyone with respect, and we're here in the business of keeping people safe, and it's a position of service where we're here to help. And so I would encourage you, if you come across those individuals, to encourage them to report. We'll take those seriously. If what you're described, a mugging is considered it sounds, what you're describing sounds like a robbery, and it doesn't matter the dollar amount of an item that is taken. If it's taken by force or fear, that's a felony crime, and we take that very seriously. I know just part of my presentation tonight is on the kind of recap of statistics for 2022 for Estacada, and there was only one reported robbery in the city of Estacada for the entire year, and that I read that report today, or refreshed my memory of it, and it ended up being not actually a robbery. It was a separate issue I can go into later. So yeah, and we definitely take that seriously. It doesn't matter the dollar amount, or, person's position in town. We would take that seriously. We don't want that happening to anybody else, and we want to hold people accountable. So I would encourage people to come forward. If I'm open to explore ideas on how to, bridge that gap or divide with these community members, and how we can, help serve them better, and fix that relationship going forward. The gun call that was mentioned at the post office, I found that really interesting. I heard about that today. I looked into it. I was able to speak with the deputy that was involved in that, the Estacada deputy that was stationed there that day. He responded to that location along with two other deputies. The time delay, I don't have the facts in front of me, because I did not timestamp the CAD and take, dive into it that much. But what I do know, the facts of the case was, it was not, the call was not coded through dispatch as a, priority one gun call. It was coded as suspicious circumstance, I believe is what I saw. And they had the deputy that was responding. I mean, one of the benefits of a smaller community is the deputy's aware of people in the community and locations in the community, and just has that working knowledge of it. And so when he heard the call, the deputy that's assigned to Estacada was at our station over in Clackamas. He relayed information to the other deputies that were closer than him that he was going to, based on the information in the call, he either recognized the person or the location. I believe it was the location, and called to the location and spoke to someone and gathered additional information, which, deputies will often do that in law enforcement. You're going into what could potentially be a dangerous situation, and you want to gather as much information as you can while responding. I think he quickly was able to ascertain that this was not a, what we would call it, a gun call or a serious type of call. This was more related to either a mental health call or a drug related type of impairment. And that, like I said, the 3 deputies did respond to that location. They spoke with the individual that was making those claims. Turned out that those claims were not in fact true. They recognized the impairment of the person, and went to the location to do to be prudent and check the location. The person that made the report at the post office, was not what we would call the victim. The victim was supposedly at another location, and they contacted the supposed victim, who, basically said, yeah, none of that happened. I have no idea what this person's talking about. And that essentially the call was cleared that way. There was an arrest made of another individual that was present that had a warrant for the arrest, but it was unrelated to the initial claim. So when I first heard about that, I was obviously a little concerned if there was a dispatch call of someone being chased with a gun, is the information that was relayed to me. That's a serious call that would induce a code 3 response from several deputies. So I maybe kind of question, there's often several sides to the story.
Right.
The deputies do a very good job at what they're doing, and I trust their judgment and instincts on something like that. So I hope that clears it up a little bit. If there's any additional questions about that case specific, I can dig into it more. But like I said, I had that conversation with the Estacada deputy that responded.
I just have a quick question. Thank you for giving us the details on that. That helps clear up a lot of stuff. I know the woman I talked to at the post office was the one that talked to you guys on the phone and was kind of dealing with the lady, and she said the same thing. She was very impaired. And I have maybe I'm confused. What time of days and what response times are we guaranteed throughout the week?
Yeah, so you have the 3 deputies that work for Estacada. The one is assigned to the school as a school resource officer, and he works school hours. And his schedule does vary. It's either Monday through Thursday, or sometimes he works on Fridays, and that does vary depending on what's happening at the school. There's times where he will work late for school events. It just is kind of dependent on what the needs of the school. And then our 2 deputies that are assigned to Estacada are on a 12-hour shift, which gives us 7-day-a-week coverage. One of them works Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, 12 hours, and has an 8-hour day every other Wednesday. And the second deputy is the opposite Wednesday for 8 hours, and then Thursday, Friday, Saturday for 12 hours.
Cool.
And they work,
If
like
one
a
of them
mid-
calls in sick, you don't have somebody to come replace and we just do without, right?
essentially, yes. And if you recall from the previous presentation of the essentially part-time contract that Estacada is in with the sheriff's office, that does not require a replacement as a full-time contract would. There's no minimum staffing in the city of Estacada. One of the I guess nice things is that we're currently under budget, so there's extra money that is allotted to pay for police services, and so if there's a need to post an overtime line to have somebody fill that vacant spot, if let's say it's a weekend and that person being gone would leave no one there, then we could put up an overtime line and see if someone will fill it. The fallback, and I can go into this a little bit more with the PowerPoint presentation I have, or at least show you. The fallback is there, regardless if a deputy is assigned to the city of Estacada, there are generally 2 deputies, depending on the time of day, 1 to 2 deputies that are in the East County area, and Estacada is the most populated area in that district.
Thank you for answering that.
And I can give you an example of that. It was a few weeks ago. I was out in Estacada. I did a traffic stop at the library, and within a minute and a half, there were 2 patrol cars that pulled up, and both of them were, or I should say, neither one of them were the Estacada car. They were both our East County cars that were just up the road and swung in just to make sure that I didn't need any help. So you often will find, and like I said, I'll show you in the presentation, you often find that the county patrol deputies are in or near Estacada.
John, go ahead.
I defer.
Okay, Counselor McElroy.
Just quick question, Lieutenant Mendoza, the person that was arrested at the interaction at the post office, where were they arrested from? Was it at the post office or another location nearby?
No, it was another location. It was out of I believe out of a shed that was behind, I think it was the ant farm. Yes.
Behind Harmony Bakery.
Thanks.
Yes. I was gonna say bakery, but yeah, ant farm bakery.
Great. Thank you.
Quick question.
Go ahead, John. Sorry.
So 2 quick questions. One, what is a priority 1 or 2 call?
Those are, your serious offenses where there's a threat to life, serious physical injury, right? So the domestic with a weapon, an actual shooting, stabbing, things like that.
Okay. And then I understand that, my understanding is there isn't a guarantee of a response time. It's just the data we got just showed a median response time from either an Estacada unit or another unit, but there's no guarantee.
That would be correct. Yes. And so our conversation. So one of the things that that I can present for you probably at the next meeting, I'm working on gathering that information. Are your current response times? I was gathering it for the city council to present, so I could present that here as well. And I'll break down your response time that is essentially what you're getting when there's a deputy that's in town and when you don't have a deputy in town. And you
Right,
see
and
a drastic difference in that.
The last question then is the data that you gave us, I think it's 2021 data, and it showed a total number of calls of 2335. And then 1132 of those were, so 1,132 were from the Estacada unit. And then, but I'm assuming that that's all calls, not just priority 1 and priority 2. I would be interested to know in for priority 1 and priority 2 calls, what the response time is, because the median of the data that you gave us for an Estacada unit priority 1 or 2 call was total time of 6:01. And then if it's a not an Estacada unit, then it was for priority 1 and 2 calls, it was 9 minutes and 30 seconds, but that was a median. And so if it's an Estacada unit and it's 1,132, that's whatever the math is, 550 something calls that took longer than that. Which that's not, I mean, that's just an example of the math, but I'd be really interested to know.
Yeah, so I'm not sure what you're referring to. You said on something that I gave you. Are you talking about
Yeah, it's the Estacada Police Department monthly activity report for November 2021. And it's something that
Okay.
we got from your presentation.
All right, so I'm sorry, my apologies. I'm looking at the one that I had queued up for today.
You have the share screen button that you can see? Or do I need to make it so that you can share? Just for whenever you do want to share that. If you don't see it, let me try to.
Oh yeah, I can do that. Yep.
You can.
Okay, so without having that in front of me, I won't speak to it because I don't remember it off the top of my head. In the past, I've done a presentation for and provided some numbers for the city council. And essentially, and this is when they were asking about whether or not Estacada should move to full-time law enforcement services 24/7. And really what I presented is it's not a deputy per population statistic that we really want to look at. What would be important to look at is the response time. So I think that you're barking up the right tree. If you look at we have goals that we set for the sheriff's office on response times. We're working on setting those for this this next year, but it's going to be roughly around for a priority 1 and 2 call, 5 minutes if it's in an urban area and 20 minutes if it's in unincorporated in the county. That are some rough numbers for you. Estacada, if I remember the last time that I presented those numbers, were a little bit higher than that for both priority 1 and 2 calls. And the way I broke it down, because it makes more sense, is when an Estacada deputy is working in Estacada, what is the response time for priority 1? And that was around 6 minutes. I don't remember the exact seconds, but around 6 minutes. And then it was over 20 minutes when a deputy is not assigned to the city. There are a couple other factors to consider and think about when looking at those response times, and that is if we essentially count that time as when the deputies are ready to take the call. And as you can imagine, some of these high priority calls, that are dangerous, that have a reportable weapon, that's not something that we want to rush into with one person and then hope that the next guy gets here in time to help us out. We want to be prepared when we go into those. And so there may be a deputy that's staged nearby, but hasn't essentially stopped that timer yet. So that's where you might see that discrepancy. You can say, hey, you can get anywhere in town in 5 minutes. But you might see that discrepancy to these high priority calls. And again, it's average, where there may be a slower response because they're waiting for another unit to be effective. And I will be able to show those current response times when I get those numbers. And like I said, for the next meeting, I think would be adequate.
Excellent. Thank you, Chief. Counselor McRae.
Is it an average or a median?
It's a good question. I'm gonna guess it's average.
This data says median.
Okay, then I'm sure.
I'm just
that's-
curious.
Yeah.
I just curious. They're
Yeah.
just
it
two
was a
completely
trick
different
question.
numbers, but yeah. No, I didn't know the answer when I asked it, Lieutenant Mendoza. I just meant the information you're going to present to the council. I'd be interested in the average more than the median.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah, and I will ask, so that's run by our crime analysis people, and if they have a particular reason for presenting it one way, then that's the way it come. If I have the option, then they'll fulfill that.
All right.
I think there's value in both,
Yeah.
because an average, just a mean, can be skewed heavily by either a very short response time or a very long response time. Whereas a median, whatever that median is, the half were longer and half were shorter, and there's value in both.
Sure.
Thank you.
I got a question.
Go ahead.
Yes, sir. Do we ever get unmarked vehicles out here with deputies? There's everything in a squad car, is it in a marked vehicle?
You get one every time I come out there. Yes.
We do.
Yeah, my vehicle's not marked, it's fully equipped, police vehicle. We have our, trying to think off, our DUI car is unmarked as well. There are a few, most of our vehicles are marked, or should be marked. We went through a transition of changing some striping and markings on the side of our patrol vehicles. So for a while, all of the brand new Durangos that you saw would have a light bar on top and completely white. But I believe that they're at the point now where they're caught up with all the new markings.
Looks good. I like the unmarked stuff.
Definitely.
Yeah, you'd be amazed what you see.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you, Chief, for that. Sorry for all the questions. Are you ready for
No.
your presentation?
Yeah, absolutely.
Appreciate your patience there.
Happy anytime to answer your questions.
Thank you.
Now, let me see about sharing the screen here.
And we have 3 members in the audience this evening too.
They're like, we're uncomfortable now.
Okay. It looks like that's showing up.
Yep.
Yes.
Okay. So this is just this is actually going to just be a quick statistical review of 2020. And I kind of compared it to 2021 just to give some reference. All of the information that you're going to see is available to you via our Sheriff's Office website. There's the call activity dashboard. So most of this, or all of this information I just pulled from that dashboard, which you'll be able to see. And I'm sure you've seen it already, but it's just part of this presentation. So it's, forgive me. It is, let me see if I can move some stuff here because it's kind of hiding some information I wanted to talk about. Nope, go back there. So I can't see the top, but you'll see at the very top, this is total call activity for 2022. This is high priority calls, medium priority, and low priority. This is everything combined. And I can't see it, but I'm sure you guys can. The total number there on top is 2,000 something. This screen,
2876.
thank you. And I can see it on this one. So this is what you just saw blown up is the 2022, which you see on the right, and then the left is 2021. So calls down slightly for the year. I would honestly just call that fairly flat. You see the dots on the map. So what's nice with the city of Estacada, when you look at this call activity, you will see the map of Estacada, and it is mapped for you. So when you look at the areas in unincorporated county, that's not plotted like this. So a little bit of benefit for the city and kind of see where things are happening. Obviously, the darker color is where more instances are happening in the same location or close proximity. across the bottom is the heat map that shows you that the time of day that these crimes are occurring and the day of the week. And then on the bottom left is your average of calls per month. Let's see, let's look at, I wanted to point out something, and this is, I had kind of mentioned this before, that in the top right corner of both of these graphs, you'll see the purple is Estacada, green or dark gray is Clackamas County Sheriff's Office, and light gray is other. And what that is showing is the primary unit on any of these calls, whether it be a deputy initiated or initiated by the public. That actually shows you that Estacada deputies are handling, at best, roughly half of the calls in the city for 2021. And it was, I think CCSO, the Sheriff's Office, was handling 60, well, let's just say less than half. I don't have the exact number there, but the Sheriff's Office handling more than half, I'm sorry. And then we'll look later, kind of highlighted some high priority calls. See if there's anything else to note on these. So when you access this on the website, along the left-hand side where you see alarm and assist, there is a little toggle where you can scroll down and see more, and it goes down into traffic. You're just unable to do that on a PowerPoint. So here I did a 1-year comparison. On the left column, where you see domestic violence and violation of restraining order, missing person, behavioral health, that's like a mental health call, harassment, burglaries, sex offense. Those were all showing a decrease from 2021 to 2022. Most significantly, I was happy to see, over a 20% decrease in domestic violence, and the same over 20% in violation of restraining orders, which that's always good news. The column on the right, you've got stolen vehicles at the top, fraud, alarms, assist fire department, theft, and civil. And those were all an increase from 2021 to 2022. It's something to keep in mind. These are not all the calls that are available to you to see. These were just ones that I figured would be of note. So I put it on the screen just so we could discuss it. Something that I learned today, this was interesting to me, that we are weeks away from adding a new dashboard to our website. That dashboard is crimes reported. And so it's good to note that what we're looking at are statistics of call activity, and that is what goes into our dispatch system. Kind of like the call we talked about earlier today, where the person goes in the post office and claims that someone's being held at gunpoint, a gun to their head. That gets catted a certain way as one of these calls, but it doesn't always end up as being factual or true, and it doesn't end up being a report. It could be, where it could have been, but maybe it turns into something else. It turns into a behavioral health call. And if the name of the CAD isn't changed, it comes up as a suspicious circumstance or domestic violence or domestic with a weapon or something to that effect, if that makes sense. So not to say this isn't great data. It is great for what it is. This is the call activity. And where that comes into play, I was concerned, and I know that you are as well, and the city council is concerned over our increase in stolen vehicles. So looking at that, that's 130-some% increase. So I pulled our reports for stolen vehicles in the city of Estacada for 2022. And I was only able to find a total of 20 reports for stolen vehicles. And so there's that discrepancy there. And I guess I questioned, well, where are the other 6 that I can't find? So what could be is that initial call came in as a stolen vehicle, but a report wasn't taken because it was determined that it wasn't stolen. So we had 26 calls of stolen vehicles, which was an increase of 11 calls in 2021. I found 20 reports. I read 17 of them. One of those 17, written in the report, establishes that it wasn't a stolen vehicle, but they still took that report. So we're sitting at least 19. So that the statistics aren't as bad or as high as they initially appear on this. There were 3 reports that I haven't read, but I would imagine that those are gonna pretty much fall in line with the rest. Reading through, I was looking for some sort of pattern, or any information I could derive from these reports. Like, are these similar types of stolen vehicles, similar types of situations? Which there were some patterns in there. A couple of pickup trucks had been stolen, and their catalytic converters were removed when the vehicles were recovered. 17 reports that I read, there were only, if I remember correctly, was 3 that had not been recovered, 3 vehicles. Most had been recovered within a couple of days. Some had suspects, some, the suspects were arrested. Handful of these, 3 or 4 of them, were vehicles that were recovered in Portland or in Gresham. One was recovered down in Silverton. The driver of that vehicle, had several warrants out of Salem that for stealing cars.
Chief, were those suspects from Estacada?
There was I remember one of the suspects arrested was from the Boring area. They were arrested in Portland with someone that was from Portland. There are a couple of suspects listed, or possible suspects listed in a few of these, and they are known people to the sheriff's office, right, who have criminal history of this type of activity. So we are, I would say, well aware of that situation, and definitely working on holding those people accountable. Not all of these are at the point where where we have suspect information. Some of them we do take those seriously, and we process those vehicles as crime scenes, and we're able to submit DNA samples to the crime lab. They'll actually process DNA swabs from a stolen vehicle or stolen property. So we are waiting on some DNA samples to come back, see if we have any matches there. Like I said, some were occupied, some unoccupied. I'm trying to think if there's any other of note.
One more quick question. Does
Yeah.
your agency have a bait car program?
A bait car, is that what you said?
Yeah, do you have a bait car?
We don't. I believe that we have done some things like that with bait property, bait items. I am not aware of a bait car that's available to us at this time. I was going to also note on the stolen vehicles, a few of those were vehicles that, unfortunately were, could be considered crimes of opportunity, vehicles that were either unable to be unlocked. I think 3 of them, had noted in the report that they start them with a screwdriver. So the ignition is already damaged, and it's one of these things that are easily stolen. Some motorcycles that have been stolen, were not that were pushed, from a driveway or the side of the house and the street and taken. So there's some opportunity here for, just some basic crime prevention, and, we wish that we didn't live in a society where people had to guard their items and lock their things. But unfortunately that, we have those that will prey on those victims and those easy opportunities. So, there is some opportunity for some basic crime prevention there, leaving lights on. Several people have cameras. They don't always pick up, the suspect, but there's that opportunity, right? And being good neighbors and sharing that information with people. Some of these were vehicles were located through, social media networks that they posted some information on it, and somebody saw the vehicle and then they ended up getting it back. There was one that I was going to bring up. I kind of alluded and mentioned earlier that the robbery, one of these stolen vehicles. So I guess we went from 20 down to 19 because one wasn't stolen. Well, we can go down to 18 because one of them came in as an armed robbery, carjacking. And then the person ended up, through the investigation, the person admitted that they actually had gone to buy drugs from somebody, and they changed their story, and they said that this occurred first in the city of Sandy and then the city of Estacada, and then the location that they gave, there's good surveillance video. And so we reviewed surveillance video, and they still didn't give a straight story. So it was more of a situation of drug activity than a stolen vehicle. So just to kind of give you an overview of what we're looking at in the stolen vehicle area. Alarms were up quite a bit. Looks like frauds were up as well. Assist fire permit, which it could be various reasons for that call, thefts and civil calls. Does anybody have any other questions on those before I move the slides?
John.
I had a question. I've got, as you saw earlier, I've got the report you gave us previously, and one of the pages lists the totals for, and I looked at the first 5 specifically. So domestic violence, violating the restraining order, missing person, behavioral health, and harassment. And I don't know if there's an answer right now, but the numbers are different for 2021 from this report that we got before versus what I'm seeing on the screen. Specifically, domestic violence. There's the difference is 3. It's 3 less on this report, which I think is about a 25% difference. But the one that really sticks out is behavioral health. You're showing a number of 36 up there, and on this report for a 2021 total, it's only 21. So it's a difference of 15, which is a significant difference. And I'm curious, and I could go on, but because there are other examples, but I'm just curious why the difference.
Yeah, I flipped screens back to this 2021, and just to make sure it wasn't me doing a typo, and I see behavioral health 36, so that's consistent. And what was the other domestic?
Well, the ones I'm looking at, and again, this is the report that you gave us before.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm sure those are accurate. I just don't know what the difference is. But for violation of restraining order 2021, total was 12. Behavioral health for 2021, the total was 21. For domestic violence in 2021, the total was 103. And for harassment menacing, and that was actually the one I was kind of, someone harassing someone on the street, the difference, or the 2021 total was 89, and whatever they were up there before. That for harassment, the difference was 7. So up there, it must have been 96.
Yeah. So I think if I were to make an educated guess on that, I think that the report that you're looking at is probably going to fall into that, what I was talking about, where this is call activity versus what you have is our reports taken it, and that would just, I'm taking a stab at that, just a guess. I don't think that our crime analysis pulled those statistics from this call activity dashboard. I can confirm that. So the report that you have is not a report that I generated. That was one that I got from crime analysis.
Okay.
And I could it'd be an easy question just to ask
I
them.
think you answered it though, because this says it's calls for service. And I think you just versus an actual report.
Okay. Yeah, I flipped to this page just to confirm that I wrote the correct numbers in here, because I filled this out myself and just want to make sure I didn't fat finger something there. Any other questions on those?
I have a question.
Yes,
Has
sir.
there been any confrontation with homeowners, citizens and criminals?
If you're in the recent history, I'm not aware of any. There may
Okay.
have been, but I'm not aware of any.
Okay, just curious.
So that my next slide here is on traffic related issues. And again, that left column is 2021, the right is this last year, 22. So a drop in traffic stops. The label here for traffic complaints is called traffic disorder on this report. So that's fairly flat. DUIs slightly down, maybe flat depending on how you look at that. And then up would be crashes, hit and runs, and parking complaints. And up slightly. It's not too terribly high. When when we're looking at the smaller numbers, small difference looks a little bit bigger, but a rise regardless. Now this is I pulled this to kind of give you an idea and show you, this is where are you able to see my cursor?
Yes.
Okay, the high priority calls that's what I clicked for 2022. So it narrows it down only to high priority. And there were 352. And I suspect that that's priority 1, priority 2. I can go back to the first slide, and I think it has the instructions there. Well, it'll say that. So what I noticed here was a drastic increase in the sheriff's office response as the primary unit to these high priority calls. I noted here, so when you're on the dashboard on the website, if you hover over CCSO, it'll tell you the exact percent. It was like 61.9% was handled by the sheriff's office. It did not, and I don't know if the system wasn't working right. It wouldn't tell me the percentage that Estacada had handled, but obviously it's going to be less than 40 because that's just the way the math is going to work out. So the majority of high priority calls are being handled by Clackamas County deputies, and those are not contract positions. The above, and this is just kind of notes that I wrote here, just things that I noticed. Above average months for our calls were February, March, July, August, and December. And those, there wasn't one that was way above the rest, but they're just slightly above average. That red line there on the bottom left corner. The calls seem to taper off around 3 a.m. But you still see kind of that splattering of calls after that time on that heat map, which is in the bottom right. The highest volume of priority calls I noticed were, and again, not all of them show up there because there's that toggle to go up and down, is domestic violence, welfare checks, DUIs, unwanted disturbance, crashes, and suspicious activity. Yeah, really, to me, the most impactful thing from this page is that the primary units on, over half the calls are Clackamas County deputies. And so what that is that's the fallback, right? Those are the times where the esticated car is busy, or the esticated car is not in service, whether they're at training, for an hour. If they're at training for the entire day, it's a day off, it's vacation, it's they're at the jail with the custody. If they arrest somebody in Estacada, they have to drive the custody to Oregon City, process them, drop their evidence off, and come back. And those are the times when our Clackamas County patrol deputies fill in on those calls. And whether that be most of these are going to be public initiated, but some of this could be, a deputy initiated call, could see a domestic happening, and that would be catted the same or entered the same. Does anyone have any questions about this page?
I do, Chief. Do you have the numbers? Obviously, everything on the list is things that we like to keep updated on, domestic violence, all those. But in regards to crashes, do you have a ballpark on locations on those crashes? Perhaps something that intersections might be unsafe, or is it high speed or distracted driving or things like that that we would be interested in?
Yeah. Yes, I can get that. I don't have it handy, and this map doesn't.
Well, that's fine.
I tried to isolate traffic to show you on the map, and it won't do that, or at least it wouldn't do it for me. But I can get that information. That's not too difficult.
We appreciate that.
Sure. And I think this is, this is my last slide. And I was thinking that it explained the call priority, but it just says that it's assigned by dispatch to calls for police service based upon the call's seriousness, complexity, and potential to escalate. But it doesn't. Let me look at the first slide and see if it covers that. Oh yeah, so high priority 1 and 2. And again, this is available on the Sheriff's Office website, and then it's pretty easy to use. And if you're on there and you're wanting to check stuff out, and you go, click some buttons and you want to get back to the beginning, just click the city of Estacada again, and it will reset the map at the beginning, and you can start over and dive into really anything that you're interested in. And then I'm told, actually the sheriff told me today that report activity dashboard should be available within a few weeks. It's something that they're working very hard on, getting the bugs out of it. So they are looking to get it public here in a few weeks, which is just the next dashboard that we're adding. After that, they'll be working on the next one, and they're really working towards making all this information available, to you at your fingertips whenever you want it.
Excellent. That sounds good. Just to touch base on the discussion we were having before you joined us in regards to the communities here in Estacada, to try to encourage members of the community to contact the police. And also, I received an email from Melanie, and I believe it was from one of your deputies, or one of your officers, in regards to training for Community Watch. I think we're real interested in doing that here in Estacada. I think that hopefully that would help the Estacada deputies out also.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we have some great deputies that are assigned to the city of Estacada. They take pride in the work that they do. I think you'll often see them talking with people in the community, and not just sitting in their car somewhere. So I am, you know, I'll be honest, I'm very proud of the job that they do. You have a couple of senior deputies currently that are working for SK, and they do a fantastic job. I'm sure there's always room for improvement, and I'll have that conversation with them that, we have some concern from some of our citizens about just the accessibility and their comfort with, law enforcement. And we'll just make sure that they're aware and working towards building better relationships.
Brandy.
I just had a quick comment. The conversations I had today, I didn't get the impression that they don't think the deputies want to help. I think the more impression I got was that their hands are tied, is what I got from people. So I think your deputies are doing a great job in that sense. Like most people in Estacada are grateful for who we have. We really love them and they do a great job. I think it's more a broader topic that I'm sure you guys deal with on a grander basis than just Estacada. And the other thing I wanted to mention was the situation with the post office. Sorry to go back to that, but I was asked to ask this question. So
Sure.
the lady at the post office and a few other people actually asked me to ask where he was found. That's become an increased problem, that shed behind Harmony Bakery. Is there something that can be done about that? Or is it another situation where our hands are tied?
No, there's definitely something can be done. I mean, that's the nice part about, right, the smaller community rates. It's maybe easier to go talk to people and find solutions. But if there's, ordinance violations or something that we can use to leverage to change something and make it better, we can definitely do that. That's something that I will talk with the deputies about and maybe work with them to solve that issue, right? If we're seeing that there is a specific location that is causing us problems, right? Let's fix that location so that we don't just push the problem down. We'll just solve it.
Cool.
And also onto that, Chief, if something does come up, like we had a citizen come up this evening, and she was concerned about speeding on Shafford, right
Mhm.
outside of town here, and how would we get a hold of you so you get a hold of the deputies or give you that information?
Yeah, so two easy ways. You could, on the sheriff's office website, there is a tab where you can select traffic complaints. And it's, you fill out, I mean, you can fill out as much information as you want or as little as you want, but fill out that information and hit send. That'll go directly to our traffic supervisor. And he will make note of it and ask our traffic deputy if it's in the city of Estacada, right? It'll get sent to the Estacada deputies. And then you could also obviously send me an email and then I'll be aware of it. The traffic team at traffic unit at Clackamas County, that's also something that I supervise. So I mean, directly related to that. So either way, they'll get the message.
Okay, great.
Mhm.
Anyone else have any questions for the chief?
I think I might have mentioned to you guys at the last meeting about, did I talk about our speed trailer there with the reader
Yes.
board?
Yes.
So that was getting fixed and we have it up and running now, and we're working out essentially an agreement that it'll come out to Estacada every so often. So we could start compiling I think this is, yeah, we did talk about this because we talked about compiling a list of locations where you would like that, and then the city has that ability as well, and we can collect that data and really dive into it and take a look like how when are people speeding, how often, how much over the speed limit, is it a problem, is it not a problem, that type of thing is be kind of nice to see. And then we can direct our deputies to, do extra enforcement on the areas where we do recognize that there is a problem.
That would be great, Chief. Great, Kerry.
Chief, I just want to know if we did a mock-up in a subdivision of a emergency exit scenario. Is that, and got a hold of the fire department and it was agreed upon. Is there anything that we need to know about doing something like that?
Well, when you first said that, you said exactly what I was thinking about, is getting the fire department involved. Probably public works. Or to close any streets for this, is that part of the idea?
Yeah, it's just for like a,
Or is this like an emergency preparedness drill?
correct.
Okay. No, I think I would just like, I don't know that we would need any street closures. I think that, a community meeting with some education on, putting some information out about what we're doing and why and how people can be involved, and how they can participate if they want to, and, the time frame. I think that's probably there wouldn't be any need to close streets. And I think as long as I was aware in the fire department and the public works, that's something that we could definitely do, and we can, help facilitate that as well.
Good. Thank you.
Excellent. Anyone else have anything for the chief? Again, thank you, Chief, for being here. We appreciate it. I know you're a busy man, but
Yeah,
appreciate you showing up. 7:30, we'll take it.
anytime.
We
All
filled
right.
up enough time to get you on there.
Thank you.
Thank you
All right.
again for coming.
Thank
You
you.
bet. You bet. Thanks.
Have a good night.
You too.
All right. Does anyone else have anything this evening? I think I wrote everything down. All right. If anyone doesn't have anything else, I'm going to adjourn the meeting this evening.
It's late.
We
You're right.
believe we filled up that
2.5 hours. Sorry,
hour and a
guys.
half.